refresh. Able to enter number 4. Back it over. Hold up on me there just a minute. Something's not working like it was before. There we go, it is. Okay. Alright, activate source. That would turn. Sneaky changes on me, huh? Lay these out so I can see them. That's everybody. 5. There we go. Just getting organized. How are we doing over there? Looks like we got a bunch of people popped in on the Instagram side. Alright, let's start with this and then shift to some other things. Hopefully. So, see some thoughts on character designs-ish stuff in here. And then shift to the comic page. Seems like that's the plan. So, make sure that's looked up properly. And of course, let me know if there's any questions out there. We got ourselves a crested worm hound. Alright. Whew. Alright, I want to play with these feet a little bit more, just to give them more of a bramble affect, so a little different, longer toes, maybe extend into the leg, rather than standard animal toes. I want to make sure the crest on him, I want to feel like, it's the kind of thing you would see on a crested mammal, but it's not quite the same thing. Some sort of appendage on its chest. Right? Something outside the norm here. Its tail. Right? Let's get some blue on. I kind of want to doing some of these. The little shift in the story bumps into these guys. Some concepts for it. I think it actually ends up in this space here. And I wanted to think about it before I got there. Right? Important to kind of factor that in, think ahead a little bit. It's got a mouth that opens up along its neck. Good evening. popped up scales or discs or something like that coming out of his back. Rolling down. And the whole tail's kind of covered in it. Good evening. Nice to have something that just works the way I think it should, most of the time. Right? Yeah, there's our crested wormhound. Right, Bosch? Alright. Priestess up there. A guard. Something in between the two. Guess I'm taking way down here at the bottom. Should I back up? There we go. Hopefully nobody caught my mistake there. So I did for not looking over there. Good. All right. Good evening. How are we doing out there? All right. little sketches here. This one. This up over. So it's out of the way. This down just in case I have other things. Another option. Go. There's our hero. Right there. Edge on here. There. Comp. Circles. It's always nice having a relaxed dog in the room. You know? kind of fun. Rolling that along that way. That alone made the purchase worthwhile for that ruler. Circles. Good evening. We're popping in. That's should we find my little red ruler. Put it down somewhere. Thought it was in this kit, but I think I took it out and set it down. Which means it's probably gone forever. But this one I do. Try these guys. Some old containers here. Good evening. Josana. Oh, look, another Hong Konger, huh? Cici Fu. Not to be confused with Justine Fu. Like that. Focal point, well, not focal point, the vanishing point. I'm going to put that triangle down at. Gan ma yao ho de hen dao yan la. Put that triangle down there. It's right in front of me. It's transparent, so it can be hard to spot. Sometimes. But there it is. Good evening. Everybody's suddenly popping in. How are we doing? Some shadows on here. Check something out real quick. Ah, look, a Ringling student. Kicked out of the way by a muddo. Oh gosh. What you looking at me for? Just relaxing. A little stretch out. Let's see. No, it's just too close to that edge. Use your comfortably. So much cooler here. there. Good evening. Hello, hello. We're popping in. How are we doing out there? Give us a little rough idea for one of the scenes. I don't know if I want to say too much about it, but it's a crashed vessel. Seen it when I did it pieces. I started penciling. Across. Hello over there on YouTube. How's it going? I'll touch this one up and then grab that page I was starting to pencil. If I were to put this whole thing in view this time. How long have I been doing this? I've been online today for about an hour. I did the kind of rough sketch yesterday before heading out. I had some thoughts for a later scene. I wanted to get them jotted down, so I thought I would kind of touch these up tonight. And then jump into the pages I started penciling. So got this little story I've been working on. Well, concept project is kind of turned into a story project. So I wanted to jump into that. I like this red and blue combo thing I've got going on here. A little more of this in the shadow. That'll make a difference. Got the light coming in on the side. A little rim light on this guy. So, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's what I've been doing. Hopefully the noise isn't too much here, like someone on Twitch, but it hasn't popped up over here yet for some reason. We got over there. Hello. What is? That's interesting. Oh, okay, I see. What is this? The YouTube? Just purple thing next to your name, I guess. Don't try to skip out on anybody, you know, be rude. You know? Red into these foreground shadows just to mark it a little darker. I appreciate that. Alright, well, I think I'm going to grab those pages, start penciling those. So I think I've got the thought I wanted down here. Set this to the side. And grab this. Back on you. Alrighty. Need to set up a kind of basic perspective grid on this one real quick. So let's grab my pencil. Ugh. Sleepy. A little bit sleepy. Not too much sleepy. Just a little bit. Yeah, so these are some pages I'm working on. It's the printouts of the roughs, so it's not that one, this one. So there's the original. I blew it up and printed out in blue. And then there's the next page, and then after that, and then here's where it's going, and the scene we're just looking at is inside this thing somewhere. And there he goes, running in. So I figured that was a good place to start with this. So the next step is getting the perspective grid set up. So I know this angle is kind of where I want to go with it. Almost like an isometric, but not quite. So I need to draw that through, so that'll help me with that. I've kind of got a concept actually for this ship here done up in 3D. So I want to base it more on that than what I have here, mostly. And so I know that's going to be my angle going this way. The thing with 2-point perspective, you know that you've got going 2 vanishing points, so the verticals don't change in their distance, and so I can kind of mark the height if I get in the right spot. So let's see, let's try here, being more approximate to what I want. And then the angle change I want to be very, very, very slight. So if we start here and then widen up just a skosh, I can take this length over here and just move that up, and take this length here and move it up, and that'll get me decent perspective. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's kind of a shortcut right here to doing it correctly, but it does work pretty well. I actually ordered something that will help me out with that in the future too. So let's see. Actually, I'll probably do. Rather than try to measure it that way. Another way I can measure it is with a piece of paper. So I can take the length here. Right there. I can drop that down and mark it. And I can mark it again. That will double up that measurement. Bring that down, and then I can bring it up. Pretty quick. And then I can do the same thing on the other side. I got an equal space divider coming in the mail. Doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but so I should put that on the correct side. Bring that up. But basically, you can set a width on one side, mark them all off real quick, and then set a width on the other side, mark it off real quick, and this goes a lot faster. So if I know these connect to here, and that's going to connect to the one above that. And just keep one's going down a bit more so I can keep going. I'll give you half of them. So there's the fat one. So that's the small one. So the 2 on one and 3 on the other. One, 2, 3. I got 2, so I do one more. Before I forget where we're at. Let's see what's going on there. There. Same thing going on the downside. Oops. Use this one anyway. Okay, here's the one I dropped. On the floor. times the 2. So I just need a 2 anyway. I need the same going the other way. Just kind of getting. I'll do that backwards, I think. I haven't really done this trick before. I kind of understand it, but I haven't really done it. I think I just did it backwards. I think it should have been wider going this way. And then when I go this way, it should be narrower. So let's pull that back. Let's do it backwards. That's what I get for doing new things live, right? Not a big deal, but actually I keep the same proportions to make sure I set them on the right spot. So as long as they're kind of proportionate to each other. So that goes one side. So I want to be kind of very slight perspective going kind of like that. So if I were to continue this going down, grab the fatter one. Yeah, sure. Good there. Continues down, so we'll have to go how many spots? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to go here. Two, 3, 4, and then we connect the dots. So that one goes to there. There, right? That one so much angle. Oh, there you go. Gotta be careful, right? There's the there, not the goes to there. Let's get rid of the offending line. And then these go up. So the shorter one. Josana. Maybe I should get some of those drafting dots so I can stick pieces of paper over the top of things so I have to draw on top of them. So there and there. So how many do I need? I need 1, 2, 7. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. There. That's that way, and then I need to be doing the same thing but going the other way. I saw somebody demoing this. I should have tried it out back then. I kind of got the idea, but I thought I could remember how to do it myself. So this one needs to be wider now. That one needs to be narrower. So I think I guess to take, say, it's the angle I wanted on this, something like that. That kind of became the base ones. I think I can use the same distances, just kind of redraw them on the other side. So if I grab the narrow one, I kind of like the perspective as a logic puzzle to a certain degree. So like this one's here, it's a little bit closer, right? And it's a little bit closer here. Or I think actually, or to draw. I think the trick here is you do one side and then you can draw verticals through the diagonal here. Say one other one. As long as it's level, straight up and down, then I should be able to draw through here to match up those points, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Just make sure that's actually working. Third one. That supposed to have a third reference point, right? That's the trick. I see. That's why I can send it in the right spot. That should work. And we just need to connect all the verticals. Get ourselves a useful perspective grid on there. 2-point grid, that is. To be specific. Probably a mistake in here. But, I think this will help keep me in line. That works. I've never tried this trick before, so it's something new for me. I've kind of seen it laid out on artists' pages and things, but never tried it myself. Gutters. And I went and bought a cheap brush so I could easily remove my pencil shavings without having to smear everything up. You do make like official ones, I think are a little nicer, but I thought I would try that one. Keeping up. I will try to keep it up, as it were. So that kind of helps me see how straight that should be. Then I know I changed the design in the computer version. So make sure we get like a good little center line on here, since that won't change that much. Wrong angle. Let's do on the side that I can see. Now that's going to come out. Let's say make that wider. And then that comes back, and then that little wing thing comes out. And the direction kind of angle us back, but we can do that inside of this shape. So we're going to keep this. Push. There. And then this is connecting further back to there. And that goes back. where's my original roughs here, just so I have them out. Whatever I lost in the. Let's see, let's move this out of the way. Drop that. Just so I have the view there. Alright, that's what I was doing. A. That's right. And I want to get these out. Well, drawing, yes, we all start somewhere, right? You know, my nieces were experimenting with some stuff too, you know, drawing. And they're really young, you know, but they, you know, I gave them some little tricks on getting facial proportions correct, and made a little bit of a difference for them, and they tried it out today. So, you know, everybody starts somewhere. And I've been at this for a long time, so, you know, I operate a little bit, you know, different set of expectations for myself than someone else might. So, putting that triangle down. And then I have, say, for example, my students, you know, you know, they have a little bit different set of circumstances than I have, and it depends on like what their area of interests are too, of course. But it's a good idea, even in perspective, to not put everything in the same set of vanishing points, because it can make it look really stiff, even if they're all still in 2-point perspective. That's what we're working with here. It is Rainland Studios, Rainland Studios, which actually I stuck at the top of here. I can pull it down. It's up here. I even made my own paper. So I was looking around trying to find some the other day, and just was not satisfied with what I was finding. So, especially whatever's free. I don't know. I couldn't find really any paid options that I recognized, but I think it might be listed in my description there. But I think I should knock this back a little bit just so it's not visible. The perspective stuff that I just threw down. It's still there, it's just not as prominent, so I don't confuse myself. I'm an artist, not a rocket scientist, right? So I don't want to get confused too easily. My table's actually at an angle, and so it kind of lets me at least have it in the same perspective. You're going to have to support me there. Oh. Appreciate that. Please do. Oh, good. Appreciate that. Trying to get back to more kind of regular social media activity. I took kind of a break for a while, and had to kind of get back into it. A while, I mean like several years. It's been a busy season of moving and other things going on. So, but I think I'm ready to get back into it. So, appreciate that. But yeah, this is kind of a culmination of a world building project I started few years ago. But as I've been developing it, I've kind of had stories come into my head, and this is one of them. So he's pulling up his pack over here, so I should probably put that in front. Balance it on this thing right here. So let's see. Over, and he's fixing this thing on here. Ellipse template here so we can find this type. Should probably be narrower than that. Yeah, so I try to multi-stream, so I take it that's you from over on YouTube. Um, so close enough. Yeah, I try to multi-stream. I don't see any reason not to, so. Let's get that all set up on there. I've never really done comics before, so I thought I would kind of use this opportunity to kind of learn more about it and make one, and kind of use it for telling stories. See, what deficiencies I have, and see if they can be improved this way by working in these mediums. So, and do it live in front of Woody, so I can trip over my feet in front of you. Make some mistakes, right? Special words. Brass pumping up. So it's going out to this edge here. This is going, must be inside, so actually it should be a narrower panel than I made it. Oh, it sounds like my dog is dreaming. You hear any of that chirping? That's him. He has like a chirpy woof when he's dreaming. I always wonder what he's barking at in his sleep. He's having a good time though. Yeah. Dreams pretty intensely when he goes out. Like that. So, yeah, so that's kind of what we were doing here. But anyway, yeah, the story here, kind of generally, I'll just kind of talk about it, I guess. So, designed a little patch. So I put the character design stuff out so I could look at it. But the story here generally is that, well, this one specifically, it's set about 80 years or so after humans have colonized this planet. And the planet's kind of interesting. From space, it kind of looks like a giant tangle of plants, kind of all tangled up together. Someone wound up a big ball of vines. As a Yorkie, and mine is well mixed. He's about 35 pounds, so what is that, like 15 kilograms or something like that? So he's not very big. 12, 15 kilos, I think, is 35 pounds. And then but he's part lab, part beagle. But we've been together for 8 years now, which is a long time. So he'll turn 9 this fall. I got him when he was about 10 months old or so, I think. Let's see. Feel frustrated with perspective. It's a challenge, you know. I taught it when I was there at SCAD. I don't know if you were in my class or not for that, but actually one of the first year I was there, I was teaching drawing for illustration, and we did a whole bunch of perspective stuff. I'll appreciate that. Hopefully, it's worth hanging out. Set up in there. But yeah, the big trick with perspective is learning to see it. I mean, I know all the technical reasons why it all kind of works together, and how kind of make it work together. And I teach that on my teaching website, over at myartprofessor.com. But I've often found with the students I've taught, like, because I was teaching it a lot at Ringling every fall semester. We had like a huge course on it. But what I found is it actually helps kind of fix certain kinds of drawing problems students have, like the inability to see space, for example, just like having a hard time with that. And but yeah, I found it definitely helps kind of students figure out why things work the way they do visually, and it kind of breaks those those kinds of mistakes. Shadow here. Yeah, it's a solvable issue. So. I see the throw off is causing it. Try to miss anything like that. But so let's put this side, shadow. How I got into drawing. Well, I just kind of, I've always been drawing, so, it's just always been something I do. So that's kind of a difficult thing to kind of identify when I started. I started very serious, more seriously into it when I was in high school. Maybe middle school a little bit too. But I started trying to really kind of figure out what I was doing. Actually, originally, I really liked, the whole comics thing. I thought that was really inspiring. I was doing always like drawing and things before that, but it's like, wow, it'd be really cool to do comics. And then I found out what the page rate was for comic book artists even back then. I didn't know anything about what are called royalties. So basically, artists, they'll, like if you do a book cover, they give you what they call an advance on royalties. So the payment you actually get is based off of what they think it's going to sell initially, and then they pay you more if it sells more, and that's kind of the traditional way of doing illustration for a long time. It's different if you're doing like concept art for video game companies. We do what's called a work for hire, and they pay you the one time, and they get all the rights and everything to the work. But when you're dealing with like printing, so like comics or book covers or children's books or any of that, you're getting paid royalties. You have certain rights to the works that you maintain, and then as long as they keep kind of paying you, then you get paid more. I didn't know anything about that, but I always thought, oh, comics would be cool. And then I found out how little they made, and that kind of made me not want to go into comics specifically. Back then, it was like 150 per page or something like that. So I was like, well, if they're doing like a 24-page book, that's barely enough to live on. Even back then, like, you can't do really well on that. But again, I didn't know about royalties, and so back then, it's not that way right now, at least for most comics. But back then, like X-Men and Spider-Man and all the popular ones, they were selling like a lot of copies, like hundreds or thousands of copies, pretty consistently. They haven't done that in a long time, for a number of reasons. Changes in culture, but also changes in the subject matter of the comics and how expensive they've gotten. The other thing too is they were a lot cheaper back then, partially because they had a lot of advertising in them, which I don't think they do as much of anymore, at least not as much advertising for, like, say, cookies or whatever. I do have stuff from high school, actually. I've got a bunch of it here. I remember I'd always show my students, even at SCAD, I'd show them my college work. I bring in my progress portfolio of what I was doing for figure drawing. So I like to bring that in to show my students partway through the semester or quarter, I guess, back then. To kind of show them the progress I made. A lot of times, we kind of get caught up in where we're at right now, where we don't really understand the changes that are happening. And so I always like to show students that portfolio. I've got it around here somewhere too. But yeah, it kind of turned me off from doing them. I loved reading them. I still have the very first comics I bought. Um, X-Men #1 and Uncanny X-Men 281. I still have them. My box in the other room. But so that's what I started with. The DC stuff, I tend to like. I like Batman usually, as like a character. I tend to be less interested in a lot of their other characters. A lot of their characters are more kind of mythic, I guess is the word to just kind of describe them. So they feel less like real people and more like, gods or something like that. And that tends to be less interesting to me. Nothing wrong with it per se, but I always liked, the Marvel stuff always felt more kind of real in a certain way. If that makes any sense. But yeah, but I, haven't really, I actually did pick up some comics recently. So I got in the mail the Kenneth Rocafort's Broken. He's been doing crowdfunding the last few years, I guess. He dropped out of the mainstream and went independent, and he's been funding it through crowdfunding. So I haven't. I've always liked his stuff, but I never really bought any of the crowdfunding stuff because I figured I'd just wait until there was some more of it. So there was the third issue was crowdfunded last year, so that's when I picked it up. Um, but I have bought Batman. Like I liked Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight stuff has been interesting. I just like his art mostly, but I'll take a bunch of vehicles drawn by him. Yeah, hands and feet. Yeah, hands can be tough. Feet are a little easier. Because really, feet are just but feet are pretty easy because you can basically treat them as a wedge, like a doorstop or a slice of pie. But hands are definitely complicated. I've been doing hands in my um, morning study. So if you look at the stream from earlier today, I was drawing hands. So I'll be doing that in the morning. It's evening for me. I live in the East Coast of the United States, so I live in the city of Richmond, Virginia, where I teach at Virginia Commonwealth University. And so I usually get up in the morning and do some streaming then as well. Do my morning kind of warm ups. I had to do a bunch of paperwork today, so if you're interested in learning like perspective from me and from my online teaching site, I will actually have to close access to new users to it later this year, probably in September. I don't know the exact date, but I kind of signed a contract with a company that's going to help me market because I'm terrible at marketing. And the way they do course sales is through launches, periodic launches. And they sell courses individually. And I guess they're hosted on Kajabi or something like that. But I got recommended by one of them. I thought I'd give it a try and see how it goes. And so I signed an exclusive contract with them for 3 years. So my goal is this summer before that gets going is to kind of finish off the perspective series I started, and then that'll be available on there. People that have been subscribed there for a while, and then I won't be putting anything new there for a while, which I guess isn't bad given what's been going on, but but yeah, so that's be a change that will be happening over there. I'll have to shut down that access. But it should be an interesting kind of learning process of whether you're going to stick with them for the long term or just do it for a few years. I don't know, but it seems like the contract's very fair. It's very simple. Uh, it's from a guy who got going with it independently. So um, we'll see. Yeah, I hope it'll work out for me. Yeah, if you're curious about the ones that I have, it's myartprofessor.com. And I put a bunch of student work up on there. I was actually going to get back into doing it myself this last fall, and so I kind of did a graphic update to the site, and I contacted a bunch of my old students from Ringling and got their permission to get a bunch of testimonials and student work, and I was going to get back into marketing, but I've just been really busy this last semester, unfortunately. You have a block, you don't know what to draw, I don't know, draw some hands, right? If you have a hard time drawing hands and feet, that's a good thing to draw. I So that's always a good subject, right? Portraits or uh, hands and feet. If you don't know what to do, that's always a thing worth practicing, I say. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to learn it. You can kind of see what the students are doing on there, and if you don't like it, yeah, you can always drop it. Um, so, it's cheaper than SCAD. Whole lot cheaper. Um, there's two sets of courses. So one is I call them the intensive, I think is what I call them in there. There's two. One's 1 point, one's 2 point perspective. It's pretty deep stuff on there. And then there's a series. There's a basic perspective course, and then there's an intensive 1 point. Well, sort of intensive. I call it Mobius Minecraft Garden, and you kind of build a garden using simple shapes. And then you study some textures, and you map those textures onto it. Yeah, you can't afford. I couldn't afford SCAD either, so I didn't go there. Really, I was actually slow to kind of apply to college. I only really applied to one. That was both times I went to school, actually, which was kind of funny. So my teacher told me, here, fill out this application. I'm like, okay. And ended up at that school. It's funny, he taught there eventually when I was there teaching later on, and as a student to a certain degree. And then Dan Barney. And then now he teaches up in Arlington, which isn't actually that far from here. I just never go up that way. Yeah. So, but I didn't even know SCAD existed. I didn't know anything about art schools. I didn't know, we didn't really have much of an internet when I was a student in high school. It existed, but no, schools didn't have websites like they have now and all that. My high school had a computer lab, so it didn't even have like these days a lot of classrooms now they all have computers in them or tablets or whatever. And um, I don't think you skipped my class very often. I think you were there pretty consistently, right? So you were like in probably figure drawing, if I had to guess, right? Because I had a lot of students in figure drawing. And then I think you were there that last semester or towards the end before I left. Um, in that illustration class, I think. Intro to illustration class. I think you were hanging out. Who were you sitting next to? You were sitting next to in that class. You sat over on the left, if I recall, my left. In that class. We were maybe that was I think the alligator class. I remember we had like the 50 uses of an alligator just before I left there. Project I use all the time. And then what do you see next to it? I think it was might have been another fashion student. It was Rosa? What's her name? Rosa? Like a little bit older lady in the class. But yeah, I think Rose was in that. She was older. I think she was in that class. Some more key. Figure drawing is hard. So it might have probably been in the oil painting classes. I taught a bunch of those. It's bad. So, next to it. I don't remember all the names. I feel bad. I wish I could remember everybody's names. But kind of got slower with that over time at SCAD. Partially because it was just such a miserable experience working with them. And we got ourselves a bot over there on it's like Twitch. Get rid of that bot real quick. Block. Let's see. Come over here and delete. Yeah, well, I think I was in the impression you had some good teachers in the fashion area. Um, yeah, but that class especially, that was like an early illustration class, so I think everybody would have been fairly young in there. That's the problem with art stuff, though. There's always so many things you could do, right? So I have a fancy Chinese drum from Hermes. Speaking of fashion, couldn't complete my assignments. Well, my assignments are obviously the most important ones. Yeah, it is. It is. I do tend to put together fairly involved courses. That's a fairly universal complaint is that I do assign a lot of work, but I kind of try to think about the art courses as being as intensive as like you know what an engineering student would do, because it does take a lot to be a professional artist. Like it's one thing to do some nice drawings. It's another thing to learn to be an actual professional. And it's a lot of work, and I don't think a lot of artists kind of realize that. So a lot of people complain, that they didn't get a lot out of their education, but if they'd been in class with all the work, they would have complained about that too, if they had the same level of work. But yes, I am the best ever. That's what I always tell people. Um, but yeah, it's just a lot. So it's just one of those things where if there's things you want to do, then professionally that is, um, it's just a lot of work. Let's see to balance these two out. I might step this one back just to balance it out, but. But oh yeah, it's holiday right now in Hong Kong. Which holiday have we got going on? Let's see. We go this way. That way. Oh, well, what a celebration, right? Like the last mayor election, right, where you had so many choices to choose from. It's very exciting, right? Hopefully things will be okay there eventually. I appreciate that. Awesome. Got you in the right spot. Alright, so this we say let's do absences with that. And little Hong Kong. I don't know. Hopefully it'll work out. Obviously China's not as bad as it was in 1955 or whatever, 65 or even the 70s. So that's good. Um, so you know. Alright, that goes to there. So I need to go halfway to this one. This one. Alright, go back. Let's go this way. Alright, we got perspective grid on there. Oh, well, that's not disturbing at all. I know there's a lot of conversation going on here about a company called Palantir that run by Peter Thiel, and people are very concerned about the power it may exert here. And yeah, people are worried about it. This should come out here. But yeah, but they make some software that's being used in Gaza to target people. And anyway, they're looking at, I guess, the government's looking at using their systems in the United States, which is a little disturbing. But we're a little worried about some people are talking about that. Yeah, there's a lot of people are kind of fixated. A lot of governments that are fixated on kind of this information collection and use, and then putting it through kind of AI systems and using that. Um, all right, so this guy is being addressed. So we get a lot of reflection on this spot. See what we got for K. This and looks like better than the others. Well, that's good. Hopefully that's the pattern of movement, right? Is always towards something better. Sometimes things like get worse for a bit, but generally speaking, the more you do good practice, the better things get over time. Good. Good. You're popping it. I want you already on top of my desk. I gotta remember to put things away. All right. Let's see. doesn't go off camera above. But you get it up out the way. Right? We go doing our little perspective trick here again. Just to reference it more easily. go. No one else is commenting. Well, usually drawstring's usually pretty chill. Suppose if I had something controversial to say, that would help. But but I'm always open to questions and comments and all that. So if anyone does have something they want to comment on, that's fine too. Let's see. So, but yeah, if I had to, it's not like we're watching somebody play a video game or something, right? I'll probably be another 15-ish minutes, I think. And then come back in the morning. I usually try to stop, head to bed around 10 p.m. Just one of the things I found kind of just for my own sanity and productivity is just to have like a regular, mostly regular bedtime. Um, so that's the usual plan. That way, I can be more functional. And in the morning, I'll be drawing. Probably continue to draw that set of hands I was working on. All right. There we go. Why can't you draw a head anymore? I don't know. I probably have to practice it. If I had to guess. Generally speaking, that's usually the key, right? Any of this is consistent, good practice, right? Let's see. It's really a model I'm widening. And I put like a battery pack thing. It's not even the shot we're seeing of this in this story. So. So, yeah, one of the tricks it has is just maintaining proper proportions, and so kind of being aware of how the head is divided up into different areas is really, really helpful. And so I like the half third approach. There was a dog sniffing my foot for a second there, but he was not. It was some wind. Here. So, but that's There's a number of different kind of proportional sets you can use for drawing the head. Yeah, this is the spot the ship gets from the scene, so I guess I shouldn't. I was using it kind of as a teaching tool of 3D stuff for me, but my dog's about to start explaining to me that we're coming up on a certain time of day. That's the reason I have to leave in a few minutes. do with this text? I almost put it here. Let's see. See anything? This one finally found. I don't know what else I was saying up here before. Well, please do. You know, there's a bunch of them there. Um, $9:30. Probably a good spot to stop. Actually, this is one of my productivity tricks. So one of the things that I like to do for my productivity is is like having a good time to stop. Like I'm stopping right now. Let's see any of these boxes up here. The other thing is to kind of stop when you know what you're going to do next near that time. So for example, I know I'm going to work on this panel. Hello, over there on Instagram. I know I'm going to work on this panel, and let's see, I need this here. Let's put in these boxes from the other panel down here in the right spot. It's kind of stopping when you know exactly what you're going to do next near the time you were planning on stopping anyway. And that way, when you come back to this next time, so when I return to this tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't have to sit there and think, okay, now what am I going to do? I think, I'm going to work on this panel. So I've got the perspective set up for it. I've got the main thing going. I just got to finish up all these details in here. And then I know what to do next. And so that's one of my little tricks for being more productive, is to do that. And I've always found that's kind of a helpful way of thinking about my schedule, is like have a plan of what I'm going to do next. So like tomorrow morning, I know what I'm going to be drawing for my morning study. And for this, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing with it tomorrow. And so I can stop now and put this away and then pick it up tomorrow and be ready to roll. So anyway, I appreciate everybody that came in. I'm going to call it there for tonight, and we'll talk to you all later.